Ebenezer Ademuyiwa OJ, Chief Lecturer in the Department of Fine and Applied Arts, School of Vocational Education. And joining us in the studio today is Dr. Ebenezer Ademuyiwa OJ, Chief Lecturer in the Department of Fine and Applied Arts, School of Vocational Education, Federal College of Education. He brings with him a wealth of experience in vocational and creative education, and today we'll be looking at the connection between education, entrepreneurship, and the ability of young Nigerians to turn their skills into sustainable businesses. Dr. OJ, it's a pleasure to have you with us in the program.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Nigeria has some of the most successful young entrepreneurs in Africa, in tech, fashion, music, agriculture, and film. But very few of them credit their school for their success. As someone who works in vocational education, what does that tell us about the relationship between Nigerian education and Nigerian business success?
I'd like to say that we have many young Nigerians that are resilient, that are focused. Many of them are determined to succeed. Fine, we teach them in school, but beyond what we teach in school, many make move to develop themselves, and they have what they have today. Not necessarily because of the knowledge acquired in school, but because of their personal self-development. That's what has led them to where they are today.
So would you say we are celebrating entrepreneurship or refusing it?
Well, I would say, for now, in Nigerian schools, many of our schools, we are just starting entrepreneurship in many schools. Many times, government policy changes, and for now, government is trying to look into how they can build in entrepreneurship into the education we are giving out in Nigeria. Many of our curriculum in schools, many of them are not, they did not capture real entrepreneurship. So what we do in school is just like treating the surface, teaching on the surface, not in depth. For now, I personally don't credit entrepreneurship skills many young Nigerians are required to get into what they get from school.
You mentioned you work in fine and applied arts. These are all, we have fashion, we have graphics, we have ceramics. These are all potential businesses. For our students who are raising from the department with the entrepreneurial mindset to turn their creative skills into sustainable livelihoods.
Well, many of my students, being our students, we teach them to learn how to depend on themselves and how to improve on their creativity. So developing developing their creativity and relying more on what they can do. That's part of being entrepreneurial. Now, not relying on government. Fine arts, as it is a practical based course. But it's not all the courses we do in Nigerian school that are practical. So for art students, for my own students, they have that skill in them. They have the practical know-how of how to do their work. Then we teach them how to market some of their work. But the fact still remains that some of them they are still afraid when it comes to going out there to get the work done, or to get to provide solution to a problem. Some of them can see, oh, this is a problem, I can do this, but how do you now convince your customer? The core principles or core knowledge of having a basic skill, having business skills, some of them don't have it. That's still a problem. You now see some artists that they are only looking for white-collar job to get government job, and the skill they have, how to put it into use, they don't know how to put it into use. So we still have that problem.
That's very true. Well, speaking of them not having the skills, at the schools, are they teaching them how to develop the skills?
We teach, but not in depth. That's it. Not that we don't teach at all, but the way it should be taught. The practical aspect of giving the student the business skills. We don't, we treat it with kids' blood. That's, let me put it that way, just in lip service. We don't go practical in depth on how to have this skill. So that's where the problem is. But we treat it on like scratching the surface, but not in depth.
So is there a way that maybe schools can add this to their curriculum?
Well, they are working on that now. Many schools, I know of many schools now that are now coming up with, like having entrepreneurial centers, vocational skills centers, and they are making students learn it. Like where I work is not part of the curriculum given to us by the National Commission or Nigerian Commission for Colleges of Education, but we have vocational centers where we teach practical skills and we teach the students some basic business skills that they must acquire, and we give them certificates on that. You know, then the school made them enroll for that from their year on throughout. It's not part of the curriculum we should be teaching them, but the school came up with that idea, and I know many schools that are doing that now.
That's amazing. Would you say that we have placed too much emphasis on certificates and academic qualifications and not enough on practical skills and the ability to create value?
Obviously, Nigeria, all the while, we have placed more emphasis on certificates, you know, than practical skills. It's just in recent time that the jobs are not there again. The white collar jobs, they are not there again, and people are now thinking of how can we survive. So government too is now coming up with that. Policymakers are now thinking of how do we build in business skills, entrepreneurial skills into the student. That's where we're just starting. We're just starting it of recent. But in the past, it has always been certificate alone. And that's why we have many graduates that are looking for jobs here and there. But the ability to identify a problem, create a solution, and take the risk of running it, they don't have.
But I think society also has a very big role to play there, because we often hear that our Nigerian society, they place greater value on university degrees than technical and vocational skills. Why do you think this perception still persists?
Now we need that change, the change of mindset generally as Nigerians. You know. I know in other climes, they believe in what you can do more than your certificate. They value practical skills. In Western world, they value practical skills more than just your certificates. You can be carrying the certificate and you can't even defend it. It's unfortunate we have that in Nigeria. We have many people that have the certificate, but when it even comes to defending the certificate, it's still a problem. And when you look at how they came into the system, that's where the problem is. So that it has always been, in the past, we value certificate, but now we're all thinking of a change where we value what you can do more than just the certificate you carry.
So in your view, can entrepreneurship genuinely be taught in a classroom, or does a young person need a real life experience, failure and exposure to understand what it really involves?
Well, I think that it can be taught in the classroom. You know, don't forget that the formal education is regimented. You know, it's not, you can't just come into a system. You can't say you are a lecturer or you're a teacher, you come to a system and you teach what you like. There's what we call minimum standard. That we follow. But what we now do these days is we go beyond the minimum standard. We do some additional. We teach the minimum. That's what universities are doing with these systems. That's all universities do. General, common topics that we teach in each course. But beyond what each university, what all of them are allowed to teach, your university can come up with new ideas or new areas that you can add to the one that has been programmed by the NUC. So that's what we are doing now. So it can be taught, but that will require a change in every facet. The policymaker to have to be serious about it. Okay? The government how to rise up to face the challenge. I think many of our entrepreneurial centers that we are even saying we have now, you get to many of them, there are no equipment to work with. There are no practical equipment to work with. And it is, you cannot give more than what you have. So a student that does not know the technical know-how of how to handle some equipment or machine or do some things, when you go out there, how are you going to do it? So it still boils down to just being certificated, But if government is serious about it, you face it headlong, provide all that you need, then the policymaker to bring the necessary change in the curriculum, then we'll get it.
So in fields such as fashion, graphic design, crafts, anything that has to do with skills, and the students cannot financially handle that, is there a way the school can push them or maybe nurture that talent that they may have?
Well, in school, many schools are trying to, once we identify a talent, once we identify a student has an ability to do well in one area or the other, the schools encourage them, they expose them. There are many, what we call it now, agencies and all that are partnering with schools now to help develop these business ideas in students. Many of them are coming to institutions to build up where you can come in and learn more. And once you are very good at it, they will even give you grants. There are grants being provided. Then schools encourage students at times, once you know you can do it very well, if there are opportunities, you allow the students to showcase themselves and we bring in people that will patronize them and will showcase them more. So schools do that now.
And many of these young students, they're already running businesses through Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp, and other digital platforms while they are still students. What can formal education learn from the way these young people are creating opportunities for themselves?
Well, like I said earlier, Nigerian youths they are
changing the narrative.
They are very strong, determined, resilient, and they're doing everything possible to move forward. Schools have always been there. We identify some of them and we recognize them. Once we see this student is doing everything possible to succeed in life, of course, there's no parent or no parent will not want to support a child that is struggling to move ahead. So school, remember, we are surrogate fathers and mothers, we are taking care of them. We do everything possible to ensure that the skill that any child has, we help the child to develop the skill. We help the child in our own way to advance the skill beyond what they are even doing for themselves. And many times some of them, they find it difficult to separate between the business and even the education. They find that difficult. So we measure them and make sure no one suffers. The education is still moving, then the entrepreneurial skill, your idea still help you to blow it up, to increase and help you to succeed in life. That's the whole duty of the school.
Okay. Back to the certificate issue, we see that every year unemployment is always a problem among young people. It's a major concern. What do you think our education system is missing?
We're missing what we're talking about. We're missing this entrepreneurial skill. We're missing teaching the student basic skills, like basic business skills that can use to create business or create employment on their own. It is not possible for government to meet the employment needs of all Nigerians. And except we wake up to that reality and we face it. There's no way government can provide jobs for everybody. So our schools, we are now teaching them that, and we are making them know that, look, it is high time you think of how to be self-reliant. After all, the Nigerian education, the role is to make you self-reliant. You should be able to rely on yourself. You should be able to help others. You should be able to develop the country. So once now we now know government will not be able to provide job for everybody, it's the duty of the school to change the mindset of the students. Let's look inward. Let's see how you can develop by yourself. And government to help this young Nigeria that are growing to be self-reliant on their own. Provide anything we need to provide, any grants, any support from government, loans, short, some small loans that can use to develop on their own. So that's what Nigerians should be thinking of now.
You mentioned the skills, Paul. I also want to ask how important financial literacy, marketing, communication, and customer management to these students are they being given attention? Because you see some students now, maybe they're juggling school and juggling the skill that they have. They lack financial literacy. They also lack customer management. So how would you say that can bridge it?
Well, those are the basic business core skills that we are talking about. For now, we are just starting. We're starting to teach the students how to understand the nitty-gritty of these basic business skills. Many students, that's the fact, many students don't know, they don't understand it. They have the idea, but how to blow the idea, how to, how to have the financial skills, they don't know how to. But schools can now look inward, government can look inward, and incorporate this into our curriculum deliberately incorporate it into the curriculum so that we teach it and we create an element where students can go into practical aspects of it. Like in my school, there's not only my school, in many technical schools and polytechnics, and even if you're in university and the vocational aspect, we go for what we call, the students go for student industrial work experience scheme, which exposes them to the life in the industry. So if they are to do real justice to business skills being taught, there should be a venue where students can practice it too. Maybe 2-3 months, go to a company or be under a mentor where you can do some things and they will see what you do and you'll be guided, so that when you now attempt to be on your own, you will not have a problem.
Okay. Also, parents play a huge role in this, because you get parents say get a certificate, they don't nurture. You can see a child that is very skilled, but they don't nurture this on time. Could a pressure for children, could this pursue prestigious professions sometimes? Could it discourage them from developing their skills?
Well, many parents are waking up to the realities now. Many parents are waking up to the reality of giving their words, their children, both the vocational and the entrepreneurial skills, and helping them to even be on their own. Well, I know many parents now that insist before the student will even go to the university,
He must learn his skill.
he must learn his skill.
Yes.
I, for one, by God's grace of my parents, I ensure my 3 children learn one skill or the other before going to the university. And that assisted them. So in school, they do some things. But one of my children, I remember I visited her in UI, and I was shocked when I go to school. She said, "Come and see what I'm doing." And I went with my friends, and we had to patronize her. I bought some things from her. One of my friends bought some things from her. So many parents are doing that now, encouraging that. So we know in the past it has always been, oh, you must be an accountant, you must be a lawyer, you must be. But we have all seen now that it is not helping us as a nation. We have many lawyers now that go to the police station, you see many lawyers hanging around there, looking for one case or the other. You see many doctors. Well, that's why this Japa syndrome. Many want to just run outside Nigeria to get job because here they don't have job and all they learn is just their own. I mean, their specialization alone.
Yes.
The practical skills they don't know how to do things and the business skills they lack it. So many schools are changing the narratives now and parents are aware of that. So things are changing gradually.
That's very good to hear. Finally, if a young Nigerian listening to us today has a talent or practical skill but is unsure whether it can become a career or business, what advice would you say to that young person about turning education and skills into opportunity?
Well, we have to help that young person to be courageous. One of the skills of an entrepreneur is the ability to take a risk. Nigerians, many of us in Nigeria, we are fearful. Many people in Nigeria, we are always afraid of many things. Because if it flops in student, if the business flops, there may be no encouragement from any other person and all that. So I think the first thing I have to do, I personally, we have to encourage that young Nigerian just be courageous. It's not a problem to fall. The problem will be not to rise again. As an entrepreneur, the risk must be, you have to take a risk. You must know that you may fall, but that's not the end of the road. The ability to come up again. If you ask all these great entrepreneurs in Nigeria now, many of them had their downturn one time or the other, but the ability to come back, to bounce back. Then governments will still have to come in to encourage Nigerian youths generally, and Nigerians generally. Many of the problems we have in Nigeria still boils down to corruption. Even if you want to do small business, nobody is encouraging you. And we have money that some politicians are just wasting. We're wasting the resources of the country. So if there are, avenue of hope, you can always come back, can always get loan, can get support from government, and get support from state government, foreign government. I know they are doing that a little now, but we have to see on that so that Nigerians will know that, okay, if I take the risk, government can take small loan that can bring back gradually. This level fund that government gives to students now, many students are benefiting from that now. School fees, and many of them, okay, government will pay my school fees. Then when I start working, I'll start paying back. So those are things you can do to help businesses too. If there are such loans, that okay, if I take this, if I start working, if the business blooms, then you can start paying back that loan. Then will be encouraged to go to business.
Right. Thank you so much for your wonderful insights. It was a pleasure to have you on the Business of Learning, Dr. Ebenezer.
Thank you very much.
And that brings us to the end of today's edition of the Business of Learning. We have heard it all from the latest news on entrepreneurship and skills education in Nigeria, to the voices of Nigerians on the streets, to our special report on the certificate trap that is holding a generation of young Nigerians back, and our powerful conversation with today's guest. Today's conversation leaves us with one clear message: Nigeria does not lack entrepreneurs. Walk through any market in Lagos, Kano, or Port Harcourt, and you will see entrepreneurship in its rawest and most powerful form. What Nigeria lacks is an education system that recognizes that potential, nurtures it, and gives it the tools to grow beyond survival into something truly transformational. That education is possible, it is happening across this country, and it is our collective responsibility as parents, as teachers, and as citizens to demand that it becomes the standard for every Nigerian child, not a privilege for the few, a right for all. Thank you for staying with us, and to our listeners as well. Until next week, Business of Learning.